Welcome to the Will Luckett Podcast. This Seattle-based show is a space for authentic storytelling, deep conversations, and unexpected discoveries, exploring faith, life, and the human journey. Whether reflecting on personal experiences or unpacking cultural moments, this podcast invites listeners into meaningful and thought-provoking dialogue, connecting deeply with the diverse voices and perspectives right here in Seattle, Washington. Yo, I'm super glad y'all could join me today on this podcast. Self-discovery is a well-known cultural and colloquial phrase, but what does it really mean? Today, I'll give you my definition and unpack the sought-after knowledge behind this desirable state of mind. And super interesting there off the bat, right? Self-discovery as a state of mind. And I feel like it's super important and impactful to have that growth mindset, because I feel like at its core, that's really what self-discovery is. So let me give you my definition, and then I'll read a few other definitions so you can see how they all stack up. This is what I came up with developing the notes for this show. So here's my definition of self-discovery. Self-discovery is taking note of your lived experiences and desiring to understand, improve, and explore new perspectives to enhance your state of being. So right there off the bat, lived experiences and also desiring to understand. So I think it's those moments where we have lived experiences, and then in those moments, the emotions, thoughts, feelings, and questions we have coming away from controversial experiences, controversial, polarizing days and moments within our lives is really where self-discovery takes place. And I think there's a bit of a paradox here, because we hear the phrase self-discovery like it's about looking within, but it's actually a two-sided cookie, right? On one side, you do need to look within, but on the other side, it's the things that happen to you outside of yourself that cause you to want to learn more. So it's a two-sided topic. All right, here's a couple more, or a few more actually, definitions. Self-discovery is taking note of your lived experiences and choosing to understand, improve, and explore new perspectives, all with the goal of enhancing your state of being. So that one was pretty similar to mine. Here's another one. It's a little more conversational. Self-discovery means paying attention to the life you've lived, then having the desire to grow from it, to understand, to improve, to explore new perspectives that make you better. I like that. And this one, the last one, is a little more philosophical, I would say. Self-discovery is the practice of reflecting on your lived experiences and from them cultivating a desire to understand, to improve, and to explore new perspectives that elevate your way of being. So some super interesting stuff there, and self-discovery is a pillar of the show, and I wanted to explore that a little bit further with all of my listeners and really unpack some of the things that come to mind for me when I hear self-discovery. So just right off the top of the head, when I hear self-discovery, I hear curiosity. I hear desire. I hear intention. When I hear self-discovery, I hear a combination of lived experience and then also seeking wisdom, seeking information that you can't hold, right? Because we don't hold all our own ideas. And I think a big part of self-discovery is realizing that your perspective isn't the only perspective. And because of that, you don't contain all the ideas. And so ultimately, you want to become almost superhuman in a way, because once you have the knowledge, like, think about it like this. Someone wants a superpower, right? They ask for knowledge. What if your superpower was, I have the knowledge of 10 men? Not the strength of 10 men. Not the looks of 10 men, not the money, but the knowledge. That's a really interesting angle. I have the knowledge of 10 men. What could you do with 20 men, 30, 40, 50, a million men? The knowledge of a million men? That is a insurmountable amount of knowledge. So we probably will never get there as normal people, right? Because being a superhero is a bit of a fantasy. But I think that's incredible. I think we could get to the point of having the knowledge of 20 to 30 to 40, maybe even 50 people through reading books, articles, through talking, through interviews, through pulling people into your network who know more than you, or maybe not even more, but know differently than you. That's the power of people. That's the power of culture. That's the power of networking. And we all come into contact with lots of different groups of people. But the special thing about it is when we come into cultures different from our own, there's always a chance to learn. And so when you value that, you definitely have the growth mindset and a mindset that values self-discovery. Now that I've shared my definition of self-discovery, I want to break it down even further. For me, it comes down to 3 simple, powerful pillars: desire, curiosity, and intention. Let's start with the first one, desire. In this case, you gotta want it. And I think what people trip on is the seemingly overwhelming amount of knowledge and information that exists in the known world. And that's fine. That's true. There is more information out there than you will ever be able to integrate into your own life. But the amazing thing here is that's okay. And there is a philosophical part of my mind that says the things that you're meant to know, you will know in a divine way, right? You may not know all things, but the things that you do find value in will add value to your life. They will add substance to your life. So I would say don't be too forthgoing trying to understand it all. Start with the things that matter most to you. That could be knowledge about cars. That could be knowledge about exercise. That could be knowledge about people, psychology, sociology. So start somewhere. Just be willing to start somewhere, right? Our second pillar of self-discovery is curiosity, right? What's the difference between desire and curiosity? You may want something, right? I think we can liken the word desire to want. What do you want? And we can liken curiosity to being that desire has a will to grow, right? And there are 2 sides, just like I mentioned earlier, right? 2 sides to self-discovery, 2 sides to that cookie. There's 2 sides to curiosity. And like I was saying, you may not want to naturally go out and discover everything. There's going to be certain things that just make sense to you. And so that curiosity, right? Don't get discouraged if there's something you aren't interested in. That's just you being you. That's your unique design. That's your personality, right? We all have a unique makeup. So some things you may be curious about, other things you may not be that curious about. And the third pillar is intention. I think curiosity evolves into intention when we start to apply the knowledge that we learn from. So that's just super interesting. And I think desire, curiosity, and intention are the 3 pillars of self-discovery. If you have those 3 things and truly care about molding yourself, right? This is a process of being formed. And it's awesome that humans have these amazing brains that let us choose, that let us decide, that let us manipulate the knowledge in our lives. And it's really interesting, right? These pillars aren't just ideas I pulled out of thin air, right? They come from my own lived experience, right? Let me share a bit of my personal journey and how these lessons have shown up in my life, right? We want to be molded. We want to be formed. And again, I think it starts with knowing that your ideas aren't the only ideas. So in my personal self-discovery journey, I realized that I am truly attracted to not only knowledge, but the substance, the fine details, the sandpaper of the ideas, right? The things that are going to rub off on me. So for me, it's about loving truth and knowledge. And when you come into contact with ideas, when you're exposed to things that you've never been exposed before in the form of ideas, it changes you. And that's what truly I desire. And I think other people should desire too, is when you want to change, you can change. And it's a process. It takes time. And you may only want to focus on a few specific areas, but that is something that you can build on, something that you can look forward to, is the truth and the knowledge. Once you're exposed to truth, that's how things unpack. That's how things grow. And I think that's super incredible. Hearing words, hearing ideas, and having those things come into contact with your mind, with your consciousness, some things are unforgettable, right? And that's the premise of multiple movies, is that the most valuable but also dangerous thing in our existence are not only our words, but the ideas that are shaped and formed from words, thoughts, and feelings. So it's up to you to be the judge when you come into contact with a new idea. Another little piece of my personal journey is the joy of connection. I enjoy connecting with people, and not only that, but in that connection, I love being able to think freely. I love being able to not think sometimes, to just listen and show up with a mindset that is the mindset of having a cup, the mindset of having an object to fill, and the other person is filling my cup. And in that space, I'm the judge. If I want to pour out the ideas, the inklings, the suggestions of that other person I'm engaging with, I can. Or in turn, if I don't want to pour that cup out, I can keep the gift that they have given me, which is their time, their presence, their thoughts, and their ideas. So we're all out there filling each other's cup. Some people will empty you out. Some people will keep you and save you. So it's just up to you to pace yourself and ask questions, right? I can't stress this enough. We all get burnt out on things, and it just takes time. You have to be okay with the fact that each 5-year cycle, each 10-year cycle is going to teach you different things. But I think it's also important not to get desperate, and just, I can't stress this enough, pacing yourself, right? I've been working on multiple books, right? Not that I'm authoring them, I'm reading them. And it's been several months, right? I'm working on a 300 plus page book right now. And I've been reading the book for 4 months now. So I'm taking my time with it. And that's what matters. Taking your time, pacing yourself, just like anything. And, as I've grown, I've realized that self-discovery isn't just about what's happening inside. It's also about how we engage with the world around us. The tension, the tension of looking inward versus outward. It's where real truth about self-discovery begins to show, right? It's the questions in life that leave us with a decision to either act or stay idle. So it's those moments where we feel emotion. And I think emotions are questions. You go through a rough night at the house, right, with the family, and you're feeling some type of way. That emotion, I think, in a lot of ways, is actually a question. And you have to ask yourself, how do I feel? Why do I feel? What made me feel this way? Who made me feel this way? Where was I? And what if things were different? So, self-discovery is about asking questions. What do I want to change? What would I like to be different? How do I feel? Do I want to change how I feel? Do I want to change how I manage this situation? So, it's the questions in life that leave us with decisions to either act or stay idle. Right? It's a collective process that after we're puzzled by either the lack or influx of thoughts, feelings, and emotions, to take account of those things and seek reasonability about them, right? Is it okay not to care at all? Is there a right or a wrong way to go about life? And I think that brings up a real interesting offshoot, because searching within yourself doesn't necessarily, I think, in all cases, you don't need that many ideas outside of yourself, right? I think there are certain situations and circumstances where the real self-discovery comes from managing your emotions properly. You coming through a situation and you're met with a tough choice, a tough challenge. Something isn't right. That's when you make the decision to change, right? Self-discovery may just be about change. It may be about adapting. It may be about looking within yourself and saying, I want to manage this situation differently. Whatever that situation or circumstance may be. And I think that is an incredible way to look at it, right? Is there a responsibility based upon your unique identity and unique design to be the very best version of you, right? So many different lifestyles, so many different mindsets, so many different places on this planet. And who you are matters. Who you are matters. But I would encourage you, and hopefully I can inspire you to figure out a little bit more about yourself. Engage with some ideas. Think about that tough situation and then act accordingly. Figure out a way to better regulate your emotions, to find more peace. All right, y'all? While self-discovery starts with asking those inner questions, it doesn't happen in a vacuum. The spaces we're in and the people we're around shape the way we see ourselves. That's why environment matters. It can either guide us towards clarity or keep us stuck in confusion. Right? Why does environment matter? And is it a key to wayfinding and direction? You know? We have to take into account who we're around and what's lacking or is of extreme abundance, right? Whether it's school, home, church, social circles. Your environment can teach you so much. From place to place, if you're taking account of how you feel and why you feel that way, those are clues to learn more, to seek wisdom and knowledge about those social circles, scenarios, settings, and circumstances. I think that's super cool. And that's something that I would want to teach and inspire and get the word out about, right? And it's just so incredible that we have all these different thought leaders and authors and filmmakers that allow us to teach ourselves through narrative that there's more that is possible. More is possible than you could possibly know as far as being enlightened, being inspired, right? Having the desire, the curiosity, and the intention to discover, to go on a quest, to lean into your questions, good or bad. And that's just special. Self-discovery shouldn't leave you in a place over time of sorrow, in my mind at least. Over time, self-discovery should lead you to a place of holistic contentment, I believe, right? But self-discovery itself, all right, stick with me. Self-discovery itself, I don't think is synonymous with consequences. Right? Whether you end up a place in life that you're happy or not so happy with, right? You still discovered some things. I think in tune, the knowledge that comes with self-discovery will lead you to truth. And once you have truth, what's the old saying? You probably already know it. What's the old saying? The truth will set you free. And freedom is happiness. Freedom is happiness. In whatever realm you wanna say it, freedom is happiness. And we all want freedom. We all want leeway. Environment plays a huge role in shaping our discovery. School, home, church, friendships. But beyond that, life itself becomes the greatest teacher. And the way we learn is through questions. Questions that challenge us, stretch us, and ultimately guide us. Right? You know, it's just one of those things. Life is a teacher. And our lived experiences, right? I think that a successful life is a life that is full of questions. There's another old saying, question everything, right? Your perspective and the subtle changes that we see inspire us. If you don't ask any questions in life, and I would think that would be a life that maybe wasn't intentional enough. But if you think about it, we're asking questions from the time we're infants. Can I? Should I? Will I? Is that? So questioning is a natural part of the human experience, and it's something that is bound to take place. And in an imperfect world, which is the world we live in, we have to ask questions because things just aren't right sometimes. All right, change of pace. Before I wrap things up, I got to slide in a quick Seahawks update. Y'all know I can't go a whole episode without checking in on the hometown team. Just like self-discovery is about growth and adjustment along the way, football is the same, y'all. Football is about learning from last week's mistakes, making changes, and showing up stronger. Here's what's been going on with the Seahawks. All right, y'all. Last week's game, the Seahawks were the victors. They had the victory, took it from the Pittsburgh Steelers 31-17. Sam Darnold went 22 of 33 for 295 yards. He had 2 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. Kenneth Walker, the running back, 13 carries for 105 yards. Zach Charbonnet, 15 carries for 10 yards. That's an interesting stat, but I guess Charbonnet really didn't, carry the ball that far, but he had 15 carries. Seattle receiving, Jackson Smith and Jigba, 8 receptions for 103 yards with 10 targets. Cooper Kupp, 7 receptions, 90 yards, 10 targets. A few others chipped in. Torrey Horton had a touchdown. A.J. Barner had a touchdown. Seahawks defense. Let's see here. We had Byron Murphy II with 1.5 sacks. Leonard Williams with half a sack. Jaron Reed with a sack. So, all right, Joe, those were the stats, right? We got some stats here. But yeah, my overall impressions of the team. I thought this game was an improvement. Although I did feel from the first game, it felt a little bit more of a dogfight. And what I mean by that, it felt a little bit more balanced. There was a little bit more rhythm to the game. This game this weekend against the Steelers, we really relied on a few key plays, right? The Steelers, on a kick return, touched the football, and in turn, the Seahawks were able to jump on that football in the end zone. So, I mean, that play was huge. I feel encouraged about the team. I want to see more. And as I said last week, you need at least a 4-week sample size from the Seahawks to really get a feel for what they're doing. I'm super impressed with our defense so far. When Emenwari gets healthy again, we're going to be even more dangerous. Obviously, he went down week 1 against the Niners, but the Seahawks look good. I enjoyed the game. I don't want to put too much pressure on Sam Darnold because we have to realize he's learning a brand new system. This is his 5th NFL team. He's 28 years old. The amount of offensive coordinators and head coaches he's had is more than some people get in their whole career. So we have to take that into account. But the Seahawks flew around. They brought the energy. And, back-to-back weeks with 2 interceptions. So what people don't realize is that, Mike Macdonald was a defensive coordinator in Baltimore, right? He was not a head coach. He was not an offensive coordinator. He was a defensive specialist and a defensive guru. I haven't watched that much interview of Mike Macdonald. He's made a good impression on me so far. He definitely seems like he really knows what he's about, and he brings a spirit to the team that is tough, but also a spirit to the team that we don't know that well yet. All of us in Seattle are still waiting to see the kind of culture that is created from Coach Mike Macdonald and the rest of his coaching staff. So, next week, the Seahawks play the New Orleans Saints. I'll be happy to bring you another update about that game, my thoughts, my feelings. But overall, the Seahawks were in the mix. I believe the rest of the teams in our division are 2-0. We're 1-1. So, hey, we're still chasing the top spot in our division. But overall, hey, the sky's the limit for the Seahawks. We have not yet seen the best of this team. I'm excited to see us get some more wins and really produce some awesome spectacles on the field. Whew. So, all right. You know what? Here's my final note to self. Self-discovery. These episodes are called Note to Self because it's a note to the self. Self-discovery isn't about reaching a final destination. It's about having the courage to ask questions, the humility to learn from your experiences, and the will to keep improving in spirit and truth. Fight for your dreams, embrace connection, and remember the paradox, right? The more you discover, the more you realize there's still so much to learn. That's not a weakness. That's the beauty of the journey. So my final call to action is to take note. Take note of your surroundings, your environment, your thoughts, and your feelings. Then ask yourself, which of these are worth exploring deeper? All right, y'all. Until next time, the Will Luckett Podcast. Be sure to like, share, subscribe, and if you're feeling real generous, even leave a review. Thanks for listening to the Will Luckett Podcast. Stay tuned for more conversations coming your way. If this episode connected with you, make sure to like, share, and repost so more people can tap in. Catch you on the next one.